Eagles game that they played against the Jacksonville Jaguars, going up against former Eagles head coach Doug Peterson, the Eagles head coach that helped lead the Eagles to their very first Super Bowl title, Super Bowl 52, back in 2017, February of 2018 it was. And it, a lot of people peg this as kind of like a revenge game. Doug Peterson is going to get his revenge. And I kind of penciled this game because I was like, man, the last time the Eagles played a former Eagles coach, it was Andy Reid back in 2013, and then 2017, and then 2021, and 2/3 of those times he just clapped our cheeks. So that wasn't a good experience. And with how the Jaguars have been playing during the season, a lot of people have been hyping them up. A lot of people have been saying that the Jaguars could be a team to beat. The Jaguars could be a team that contends for the AFC South, that might win that division. It looks like Doug Peterson has definitely turned that team around. I would say it's pretty easy if your performance is right after Urban Meyer, because that guy should never have been an NFL coach. There is no reason for him to do so. I don't know. Maybe it was his prestige or something like that. I'm not a huge Urban Meyer fan, obviously. And it's great to see that Doug Peterson already has the same number of wins that Urban Meyer had. And Doug Peterson had it in like a quarter of the time. So hats off to Doug Peterson. I'm not going to say anything mean about Doug Peterson. I promised myself that I wouldn't say anything mean about Doug Peterson because, much like with Carson Wentz, I want to look at his time with the Eagles, with the statue and, that magical run that we had in 2017 and some of our magical runs that we had in 2018 and 2019. I don't want to look at him as a negative aspect because Doug Peterson really did handle himself with class, and I feel like with a lot of these coaches in Philly, the Eagles fans are tough crowds. Philly fans, tough crowds. The media is a tough crowd, and I feel like not everybody's cut out for that for a long period of time. We saw it with Andy Reid. He kind of started to slip, and it wasn't necessarily 100% because of him. A lot of it had to do with the pressure to succeed. And when you're in a big market, you have a big pressure to succeed. Now that Andy Reid's in Kansas City, you don't have as much pressure because Kansas City isn't a big market. The same thing could be said with Jacksonville, not a big market. So now you can be kind of like a big fish in a small pond. But it seems like he had been doing some really good work and leading the Jacksonville Jaguars to a 2-1 record, coming off of a huge win against the Chargers. A lot of people were thinking, this might be the game that the Eagles slip up in and they might lose. And it really started out looking like that. The Eagles, Jalen Hurts throws a pick six. A very amazing pick six, I will say myself when I saw the replay. I have to admit that I tried so hard to watch this game. Every time I turned on the stream, it was I think I did use NFL Byte. I guess you get what you pay for, and in this sense, I paid for nothing. But every time a play was happening, the screen started buffering, and that really annoyed me. And I think that I watched more from NFL Red Zone than I did from that whole stream. It was weird because the commercials, when the commercials were playing, I could see the full commercial, but then when the game started playing, I was like, oh, this is a nightmare. But, that pick six was tough, and then the Jaguars score. Agnew, oh man, that guy balled hard. I will say he was the X factor for the Jaguars. Christian Kirk was not the X factor for the Jaguars. That Agnew kid, he was a beast. I don't know what his first name is. It doesn't matter. The guy's a beast. But really, the 12th man for the Philadelphia Eagles were the elements. As the game continued to go on, it was just clear that the Jaguars had shown that not that they weren't ready for primetime, but kind of like their inexperience. They had played a lot of these games where they had a lot of finesse. They're a real finesse team. Like, you could tell that they're built off of timing. And what really got in the way of their timing were the elements, was the rain, was that, monsoon. And the Eagles really took advantage of that. Trevor Lawrence fumbled 4 times. Once was really his fault. The other 3 times were strip sacks. And when you give away strip sacks in your own territory, the other team's going to score. And that's exactly what happened. The second half and the second quarter, we're a second quarter team. We really turn it on in the second quarter. For some reason, that's where we score all of our points. I don't think there's been a single second quarter all season where we haven't scored more than 17 points. It's ridiculous. That is our quarter. If only the game ended after the second quarter. But I will say that the offense was sluggish, but after the mistakes that the Jaguars had, everything really started to pick up. And the running game picked up. Miles Sanders had a career day, 2 touchdowns, 134 rushing yards, something like that. He had a day. He had an amazing day. And what it really has to do with is the fact that when it's raining and when the elements are starting to show, you got to rely on your running game. And that's what we did. We relied on that running game to get the useful yardage that we needed. Trey Sermon definitely was an X factor for the Philadelphia Eagles. Everyone who ran the ball was a relative X factor. And after that interception for a touchdown, the team just didn't make any costly turnovers. There were costly mistakes because, again, it was raining, and the Eagles were affected by that. But at the end of the day, we took advantage of it, and the Jaguars didn't. So that's why the Eagles are 4-0 right now. Thanks to the rain. Thanks, rain. Some notes for this game. The Eagles did have a few injuries. Jordan Mailata got injured after that pick 6. Darius Slay got injured after the 3rd play of the game. So the Eagles played the majority of their game down 7 points, down their starting cornerback and their starting left tackle. And really, the backup players stepped in from what I was able to see, and I wasn't able to see much. But Jack Driscoll, not Jordan Driscoll, Jack Driscoll really came in to help out. The Eagles also lost Isaac Seumalo, who is, I believe he's the left guard. I could be wrong about that. And they started the game without Boston Scott and Avonte Maddox. And I was really kind of worried about these guys because I was like, man, we are playing Arizona. I don't know how good Arizona is. I haven't really seen too many of their games, but they are an NFL team, and the Eagles don't play well in Arizona. How are they going to be ready for this game? And I remember Mailata came out of the tunnel at halftime, and so did Slay, but I don't think they played. So I'm not really 100% sure if they're going to play. Those are the only injuries of note. But, man, I mean, it was a team win. I feel like there were opportunities that the Eagles had to score more points. Dallas Goedert, you got to catch the ball at the 2-yard line. You got to catch the ball. I mean, that ball was right into his hands. I know that it was raining, but if you're going to be considered the best tight end in the league by a lot of people, you got to make that catch no matter what. I mean, that's in your hands. Those are points that are coming off the board. And then the final thing that I didn't like about the game was at the very end, right? It's 29-21. We're winning by 8 points. There's a little less than 2 minutes left. The Jaguars have no timeouts. It's 4th and 3 at the 23-yard line. Now, Jake Elliott did miss an extra point, and he did get injured previously. I don't know how he is. I guess they'll kind of evaluate him as things go. But he was kind of going in the same direction. And I was thinking in my head, even if it's raining, right? Even if it's a downpour, the chance that you're going to make it must have been like a 41-yard field goal or something like that. the chance that you're going to make a 40, 41-yard field goal is probably better than converting a 4th and 3 in the rain. And you go up 12 points, less than 2 minutes left. It's probably impossible for the Jaguars to come back in the elements. I thought they should have kicked the field goal. It was an incomplete pass. Kind of scared me half to death because I was like, man, are we really going to let them back in this game? But then sack, forced fumble, we got the ball back, game, set, match, victory formation, kneel the ball. So that felt good. It feels good to win. It feels good to be 4-0. Of course it feels good to be 4-0. Are you kidding me? But that was a mistake that I looked at and I was like, man, we can't do that again. I mean, Jake Elliott is a guy who was a Pro Bowler last year. How are you going to not let him kick it? I understand that he's injured, but he already made a field goal. You got to trust him to make that field goal. And, you know, I don't know. That I felt like was a huge misstep, and we were very lucky, very fortunate to get that sack fumble.